It's an honor to be here, not just with my family, who of course I'm very proud to have with me, but to be sharing it with my business family. I joined this group when I was 26, so many of you knew me when I was a much younger man. I was ripping and roaring through my 20s, and now I'm here as a family guy, and I couldn't be more proud to be sharing my real family with my business family. And when you talk about family are folks you interact with a lot. And when I look around this room, the number of people that I've done business with, that I'm doing business with now. When I think about just in the last week, I've had folks from Clayton Blunt's company at my house. Bill Bowers has been in my house. We had folks from Ed Horn's company in my house just this week. And certainly not a week has not gone by since I've been in this group that I haven't talked to my friend Scott Hirsch to remind him how miserable it is to be an NC State fan. So when you talk about MBC and being a family, this certainly is my family. This is a group I enjoy. And so the idea of having my family here and the excitement to share some things I've been involved with my business family is certainly very, very, very exciting for me. And I'm really thrilled to be here. So, quick update on my life. For the last 8 years, I've been very involved with these guys. It's been a great joy. Those of you that are parents know that raising kids brings out the best in you. It brings out the best in a relationship with your spouse. It's really been all I could have ever wanted and more. It's been a lot of fun. It continues to get better every day. And I've been blessed with a beautiful family, and I feel very fortunate and grateful for that. In my business world, lots has been going on, lots of exciting things to share. One thing that has kind of tied a lot of things together for me, both personally and professionally over the last couple months, is a book I read called How Would You Measure Your Life? Anybody else read this book? Anybody aware of this book? It's written by a gentleman named Clayton Christensen. Christensen has been the most sought-after professor at the Harvard Business School for about the 10 years he was on their faculty. It's incredible stuff. And while he doesn't teach you how to live your life, he just encourages you to look at your life and understand what your key performance indicators are. What measurements will you look at your life to know if you've had success? He talks about your inability to measure means you're really rudderless and you don't know where you're heading. And so part of what I've sought to do in my life is to create meaningful experiences for my family. And so part of why I was excited to speak today as well was this is one of my key performance indicators for my kids to see me in action, sharing a message and doing something I love and talking to folks that are meaningful to me. So that's been something that's been quite meaningful. Professionally, it's been almost 2 years to the day that I left Levine Properties. And I had a great run and a great tenure working for Daniel Levine and his father, Al Levine. When you work with smart people, people of that ilk, you can't help but learn and grow. And so the deals I saw, the opportunities of things I got to work on, never in a million years would I have thought I would have had the kind of exposure to real estate deals and high-level transactions that the Levine family gave me the opportunity to be involved in. I was part of selling Grayland Business Park. It was almost a $60 million exit from that property for the Levines. I helped them fill up some really undervalued office parks out Monroe Road, where I literally went door to door in the Gold Building on Independence Boulevard and all sorts of other blighted office parks out Albemarle Road and encouraged folks to come into their properties. So it was really an incredible learning experience. And in the end, it turned out I really had sold myself out of a job. Basically, I'd filled up the space they have. Daniel Levine came to me one day and said, "Great job, the market's kind of soft and I can't pay you what you're worth, so you can stay here and be on straight commission and do your thing, or you can find something else that would work for you." And we parted on incredible terms, and so I decided I wanted to have my real estate license with the shop where I could really do what I do best, which is high-level business development, and surround myself with a group of other experienced brokers. As I brought in opportunities, we had a group of people in the office of all sorts of disciplines. At the top is Rob Presley. Many of you guys know Rob. Rob is one of the smartest, most ethical guys I could have ever surrounded myself with. And as deals come in and we work on things together, the depth and breadth of his expertise is incredible. He's been a developer. He's worked with banks. Rob has seen and done everything. And being third generation in the business, he just really knows his stuff. And so when I find a real estate deal I can bring value to, it's something that I'm excited to work on. Having worked for one of the craftiest and best landlords in town, I am very good representing tenants because I know what landlords are looking to do, and I can bring that expertise to an opportunity. So excited about what I'm doing in my commercial real estate career. Zach Daniel, who's with me today, we oftentimes work on deals together. Zach is incredible at market research, and when it comes to real estate, knowing what market conditions are, current market values and things like that are very important. So with Zach's understanding of the market and my understanding of what landlords are seeking, makes us a pretty crafty team in representing buyers and tenants, and I'm lucky to have done a lot of business in this group. I also have the opportunity to do some sales training and speaking still. I don't oftentimes go out of my way to find these opportunities, but opportunities thankfully find me from time to time. Having spent 2 years with Jeffrey Gitomer, I was out in the field giving dozens and dozens of speeches a year in front of big audiences, and every so often folks around town will remember I do that. They'll invite me to give a keynote speech, they'll invite me in to run a series of sales meetings. So again, just like in real estate, if I feel like I can bring value to somebody, I get involved in it and try and bring value to that situation. But I'm the son of an entrepreneur. This is my mom, my kids Mimi. She knows I say this, so I have no problem saying this in front of the group, but when you're raised by an overweight mother that runs a successful diet center, it's fair to say that salesmanship and that entrepreneurial spirit are part of your DNA. So while my real estate career is going great, and while I've enjoyed the sales training gigs that come my way, I have a passion as a small business owner. I started my first business at 26, and at that age, I aspired to involve myself in something where I could work really, really hard for a concentrated period of time, and at some point I hope to have an asset and a business that would keep doing its thing without me having my foot hard to the pedal day in and day out. So I was seeking a business, and I sat down and wrote down the criteria of a business I was looking for. Really, I've learned to understand myself, and I was looking for something that would accentuate my salesmanship and was a little bit lighter on the ops and logistics. So I set out looking for businesses, and I looked at various franchises, I looked at all sorts of things, and then one day, well, actually, let me run through my criteria report. Here's were the things I was seeking. I wanted to have a business where I didn't have to create demand for my product. Well, what exactly do I mean by not creating demand for my product? Example, when I worked for Jeffrey Gitomer, we set out to build a web-based sales training company. He and I knew that people needed sales training. We knew the internet was a great way to deliver a cost-effective, ongoing message, but the problem was very few business owners woke up on a given day saying, today's the day I'm going to go out and buy some web-based sales training. I had the same experience when I was involved in a healthcare startup called In-Room MD, where a partner and I set out to create an insurance product that business travelers bought before they went on the road. Well, everybody understood that if you got sick while traveling, it would be great to have a doctor come to your hotel room, but very few people, again, woke up that morning ready to part with dollars to buy that sort of service. So I knew I didn't want to have to convince anybody that they needed to buy what I was selling. I was looking for something that had poor competition. I'm a competitor, but I figured why make my life more challenging than it has to be. I was looking for something with limited fixed overhead. Again, wanted to accentuate my salesmanship and be a little lighter on the ops and logistics side of things. And I really wanted something that had a residual income stream. Having come from other businesses, for example, when I was a mortgage originator, like our friend Troy, as Troy knows, he might have a great month, and at the end of the month, he wipes that whiteboard clean, and it's on to the next month. I wanted something where once I earned a client, they could keep buying from me again and again and again. And then one day, our man Buff Moore introduced me to this guy. This is a gentleman named Ken Mooney. Ken lives down in Shelby. And old Buff and I drove down and met Ken at a Bojangles in Gastonia. Whole way down, Buff told me why the NBA needs to raise the basket from 10 feet to 11 feet. Great story. He'd be happy to tell you as well. So I got all sorts of great time with Buff, and Buff introduced me to this gentleman, Ken Mooney, and Ken had bought a business that replaced refrigeration gaskets. A gasket is that rubber liner on the inside of your refrigerator door, So Ken had this little gasket business. So we met at the Bojangles, and what I was most impressed with Ken when I talked to him was that his client list after only 11 months in business included P.F. Chang's and Ruth Chris and Ruby Tuesdays. And I looked across the table, and a very nice guy, but I thought, this guy doesn't seem to have all that salesmanship. What in the world were these companies doing before old Ken Mooney came along to sell them gaskets? So within a day after that meeting, Buff and I had the business under contract, and I had a 2-month window of due diligence to really take a good look and see what this guy was up to. And so what I determined over that period of time was that all the things that I was looking for in a business fit this little gasket business. I couldn't believe it. But there was demand for the product. There was very limited competition. Most of these restaurants were buying their gaskets from their commercial refrigeration vendor. These vendors really didn't care so much about the gaskets. They were interested in working on coils and compressors and some of the higher end components of the refrigeration equipment. So they were happy to let somebody else come in and take the gasket business. This guy was doing it out of his house and out of his own vehicle, so there was very little overhead. And it was a residual income stream. The incredible thing is these gaskets get little tears in them just by being opened and closed all day long. So if you own an Applebee's or an Olive Garden or an Outback or one of these sort of restaurants, if you don't change a torn gasket, the health inspector is going to come around and they're going to knock your score down. So I checked all the boxes, and here I decided to buy this little gasket business. So I owned it for my last year when I was with Levine, and then after a year of moonlighting, when I moved my license to Coldwell Banker Commercial Mecca, I made it clear to Rob that I had other dealings. He was happy with that arrangement, and so I've been spending time investing in this business, and it has really, really turned out to be an incredible amount of fun. What I bought essentially was a distributorship of a Pittsburgh-based fabricator called Gaskets Rock. We want your gaskets to rock. Anybody like that name, Gaskets Rock? It's a little bit different. You know, people are saying, Gaskets Rock? They didn't quite get it. They're a Pittsburgh-based company, as our friend Marty Conti, who's from Pittsburgh, said. He goes, that's such a Pittsburgh name. So one of the first things I did is I brought in the great Gary Hickson, who many of you know from his NBC days, and Gary says, Gaskets Rock isn't going to work, and he renamed my business The Seals. So we do gaskets, and we do it with a military-like proficiency and efficiency, and the name has really resonated. People, my clientele remembers it, and it's really been a fun, positive name. So again, NBC helps. If you're not using Gary for some of your branding, you're missing working with a very great, smart mind. So we now do business as The Seals. The company has 3 full-time territory managers. Brandon Wolf's here with me this morning. He runs our Charlotte market. And all of these guys operate as their own profit center. They have to absorb all their own expenses, and I've set them up essentially to be their own business owners. So I tell these gentlemen they are in business for themselves, just not by themselves. And they have all the tools that they need at their disposal to grow their own business. They go out and inspect current customers, they prospect new customers, they order all the product from our suppliers, they receive it at their house, they unbox it, they go out in the field, they install it, they do all their own invoicing through our mobile QuickBooks apps, and these guys have grown to really be entrepreneurs themselves. So it's very exciting for me to have other like-minded people working with me, essentially being groomed to run, and ultimately, if plans go the way I hope they will, to own their own business. We're servicing over 600 restaurant locations. We cover Greensboro, south into Greenville, Spartanburg, and west into Asheville. And we've expanded our product line. Once I've built a clientele, I started asking these operators, what else are you dealing with on a regular basis with health inspectors? And one thing that was interesting was we found that cutting boards were a real issue. So for example, we take a soiled cutting board like this. Health inspectors don't like the way these things look. And we can turn it into something that looks like this. So we go from this to this. And basically all we do is, here's Brandon. This is literally us setting up in the back of my Prius in the garage at the epicenter. So we can throw our planer down on a tarp in remote places of surface parking lots, in parking decks, and we slide those boards right through right through our planer, and they come out the other end, and they are literally as good as new. We take about 1/8 of an inch off the top, and our customers love it. So this is a great no-cost value added that we can give to our customers. It's also a really great way to gain a new customer. So if we're prospecting and we can get in their kitchen and do a gasket inspection, and we see a cutting board that's narrow enough to fit through our planer, we'll say to the operator, hey, I want to go take that planer outside to my mobile resurfacing unit, and I'm going to walk back in, and it's going to be as good as new. And they say, really? And I say, really? I take the board, I do my thing. 10 minutes later, you walk right in, and as you can imagine, it makes a really big impression on the people you're trying to do business with. So we're doing other things like strip curtains and walk-in coolers and other little ancillary repairs. So the business keeps humming along, and it really continues to be a lot of fun. What I really wanted to share this morning are some of the things that we've implemented software-wise to run the business. And so as a result of software, there's some key things that I don't have. And so things have gone to plan in that respect. Here's what I don't have. I don't have any base salaries. All my guys are on variable comp plans. They cover their own fuel, they cover the cost of their own tools, they cover everything. So they are heavily incented to perform, but I have a variable cost structure in all my compensation. I don't have any rent. I love that. I have almost no inventory. We may have a couple $100s worth of gaskets on hand. I have no vehicle expense. I've tested everything in this business out of my little Prius because as I scale the business, I don't want to have to be vehicle specific. And I have very little expensive equipment. Those planers run me about $300, and the generators we use are $500. That is the biggest out-of-pocket expense that you need in this business. So as a salesman, it's really a dream come true in terms of how I've designed the business. It is really set up for me and my team to go out there and sell. And so I call this the golden age for small business owners. And the reason why is there is so much affordable technology out there, so many cloud-based products, and a ton of low-cost expertise for you to tap into to grow your business. And that's really the meat of what I want to share with you guys this morning, are some of the tools I've used in my business in hopes that you can either use these tools or similar tools, or to urge you and challenge you to look at what's on the market and decide for yourself what is it you can implement in your business. The tool that I use the most is Salesforce. Anybody else in this room use Salesforce as their CRM? So a couple of you use it. Salesforce provides me a platform to have a place for every shred of information in my business. And so what I've done is I've taken Salesforce and I've created a very customized program where essentially I stripped out all the data fields that were meaningless to me and my business and only left the data points in that program that we need. So it's user-friendly, and by making it user-friendly, I have tremendous buy-in from my team to enter the correct information. So I've made it easy, and these guys use it. And one of the neat things about Salesforce is I can generate reports, real-time reports, anytime, day or night, to see how often guys are logging in and how often they're updating their accounts. So it's an incredibly powerful tool. This, for example, shows you that all I have in here is the account name. What I've done that's been very powerful is here under type of account, I either have an account that's either a customer, they're a Dream 100, which means they're a customer, they're a prospect that we're going to get no matter what, and I'll talk a little bit more about a Dream 100. They're a prospect, which means maybe we've contacted them and they're kind of in our universe of opportunity, or they're a lead. A lead might be a restaurant we drove by or saw on the internet, we loaded them into the system, but they're just kind of at a lower level and we will get to them at a later date and time. I've also created fields that show when we last contacted the customer and when we next need to follow up. And this information is very important because at the end of each month, I pull a report that shows who our customers are, when we've last seen them, and then we have a complete inspection report for the following month. So by putting good information in the system, I'm able to extract the things I need later. Salesforce gives me a place for everything. The contacts, all of our documents. So for example, when we take on a new account, we measure every single gasket. We know the dimensions, we know the profile type, we have our inventory sheet. That gets loaded up and attached to the account in Salesforce. All the activity history. And then when we send an email, we use Gmail. And so in Salesforce, there's a little Gmail icon right next to that account name You click on it, it opens up your Gmail, and when you send that email to the customer, you have a report of it in your Salesforce database. It's great. Everything is remotely accessed, so when our guys are in the field, either through an iPad or an iPhone, they can get real current information. It reduces my concerns about employee turnover. I've had some turnover as I've grown this business, but forcing my guys to enter good information in the system means that when they leave, that information stays with them. So I sleep much easier at night knowing I've got a cloud-based backed up solution with all the information in my business, regardless of who's working for me. And then the reporting is incredibly easy. Again, by putting good data in, the system allows you to extrapolate reports in Excel. I use those reports to schedule our inspections. I use those reports to suck it into a label making program so that we can do our postcard drip campaign. And then I use a similar Excel report to do our email marketing campaign. So we are always staying in front of our customer, and we're using technology as a cornerstone of that. A couple years ago, I was introduced to a book called The Ultimate Sales Machine. I may have recommended this to some of you. Anybody read this book? A couple of us. It is the most comprehensive overview of how to conduct a sales and marketing campaign that I've ever been exposed to. And as you know, I've worked for Gittimer. I've read it all. I've seen it all. I've worked for the best. This is an incredible body of work. I found it to be really excellent on audio CD. I've listened to it many, many times. But my biggest takeaway from this program was this idea of Dream 100. Chet Holmes, the author, talks about having pig-headed discipline. And he said, if you determine that you want an account, you need to do whatever you have to keep top-of-mind awareness with that account until they buy from you. So I look at this gasket business and say so somebody's either a customer or a potential customer, because if we want them, one day we're going to get them. So that involves, again, ongoing email drip campaigns, ongoing postcard campaigns, but it allows us to know who we want to get and to stay after them. So really what Salesforce has done is two things. It's allowing me to create a world-class customer experience, and it's allowing me to relentlessly pursue new customers. So those are two very exciting things, and I have peace of mind that everything has its proper place with Salesforce. What we use for our accounting is mobile QuickBooks, or they call it QuickBooks Online. Anybody use this software for their business? Okay, a couple of you do. What's really neat about this is the iPad integration and iPhone integration. You can go right to mobile QuickBooks anywhere, anytime, and my guys or me from the field have an incredible amount of information at our fingertips. We can create estimates, we can create invoices, we can look at all of our past due accounts. Anything and everything is there for us at our fingertips. So if my guys are in the field and they want to create an estimate from their iPhone or from their iPad, they can create it, they can email it right to a customer. If the customer doesn't want it emailed and they want it faxed, we use an eFax product where you can send an email to any fax machine in the world. You enter the fax code phone number at efaxsend.com, and you can send it right to a fax machine. Or through Bluetooth technology, if they have a Bluetooth compatible printer, they can walk right up to that printer with their iPhone or iPad and send an estimate or an invoice right to it. It is really slick. The other thing that you get when you use QuickBooks is you get an incredible amount of reporting. I had always dreamed that I could be anywhere on the planet, and if I had connection to my technology, could see and run my business at a glance anywhere, anytime. And truly, month in and month out, Intuit is making upgrades to their system where I'll log on one day and I have a whole new buffet of reports to pick from that I didn't have the last time I logged in. But the reporting is very powerful. Obviously, this information is all current. They recently came out with a feature. This is a picture that I took of my iPad, and it's essentially like a ticker tape. So throughout the day, I'm seeing any invoices that are coming up past due. I'm seeing when my bookkeeper has entered a payment. I'm seeing when my guys are sending out estimates. So anywhere I have internet access on the planet, I can see real-time a ticker tape of what's going on in my entire business. And it is very powerful. And it's really given me tremendous geographic freedom, which is one thing I'm looking for as I raise my family, is the ability not to stop working, but the ability to get on the road as I'd like and still be able to move things forward. So I am a big, big fan of QuickBooks Mobile. It's really worked out incredibly well. I also use Google Drive. Anybody here using Google? Yeah, the days of having a server in your office, if you choose to do so and your business is small enough, are over. We put everything out there on the cloud, and we can access it 24/7, 365. We have our work order process flow chart on there, so we have really just a basic Excel sheet loaded up into Google Docs. Every time an order is placed, we know the restaurant name, the location, who placed the order. There's a date that goes in there when our territory managers order from our suppliers. There's a date when they've done the installation. There's a date when they've sent the invoice. I then have my bookkeeper doing quality assurance follow-up for me. I went to her one day, I said, not only are you my bookkeeper, Mitzi, you're now my quack. She said, what do you mean I'm your quack? I said, yeah, you're my quality assurance coordinator. So she can see right there on that same Google Doc when the installation's been done, and then she fills in the date that she makes her quality assurance follow-up call and the date that she sends our customized note card. So everything's right there on the cloud. Everybody is able to collaborate and share, and that's how we move things forward. I also like the idea that if I want to make a pricing update or I want to update some sales collateral, I don't have to email it out to everybody. I just change it on the cloud version and everybody has access to the same thing. So it's very simple, but it's a very powerful platform. I also use Dropbox, and I'm sure people in this room are using Dropbox. Again, another free cloud-based service. We take pictures in the field on a regular basis of new things we're doing or installations that were of particular interest. We load it up to Dropbox, and then right there in the field on an iPhone or an iPad, we can show prospects all the neat things we're doing in the field. So again, it's a cloud-based service, free, terrific. We also use SignEasy. And I'm not suggesting SignEasy is any better than any of the other signature apps out there, but what I found is when you hand somebody an iPhone or an iPad and have them sign with their finger, they think it's the coolest thing they've ever seen. And so our validity and credibility as a vendor really goes through the roof. You have to understand, we are dealing in an industry that's been a cottage industry. When you're out there with slick technology, it really paints a picture of who you are. So it's really been these 5 cloud computing technologies that I've wrapped my entire business around. And it's really working great, and it's given me a process and workflow that I can count on, that I know is digitally backed up, that I know is remotely accessed. And it's really been one of the neatest things I've done in my business career. I really enjoy the pioneering aspect of it. I really enjoy the creativity of putting these systems together. And I just feel so fortunate to be living in this golden age where small business owners like us have so much access to very low-cost technology. The other thing that's been fascinating to me is realizing the amount of talent that is all over this globe. I read a great book by Tim Ferriss called The 5-Hour Work Week. If you haven't read, 4-Hour Work Week, thank you, Craig. Well, an extra hour wouldn't hurt. In this book, he talked about this idea of a virtual assistant. And many of you in this group know Dan Peck. Dan's always been a big proponent of virtual assistants. So I went out and researched and found that there's this neat site called Elance, like freelance, but Elance. And so when I have a job that I think somebody else can do better, I just write up a little job summary or a project summary. I post it on Elance, and literally within minutes, you'll start getting replies from people all over the planet that can do that job. People are out there that can do incredible work at a very low cost. In fact, the great Isra Allison was introduced to me through Elance. I posted up there some assignments I had. I said I would rather find somebody local in Charlotte than just anywhere on the globe. Isra found her way to me. We met, and so now I offload some of my projects to her. But again, it's a variable cost structure. I like that I don't have to have employees, and I like that I can find expertise all over the globe to do the things that I need help with. I found people on Elance to help me modify my Salesforce, and I argue that you could find people to do just about anything at very low cost with very good results. There's also a neat site out there called Fiverr. Anybody heard of Fiverr? David? I know Scott has. Drew, you have too? All right, buddy. What's neat about Fiverr is there are people out there, you would be amazed what people are willing to do for $5. If you want some examples of it, have Scott Hirsch email you some of the things he's doing in his company. He's gotten a number of different little videos created for $5 a pop that he's using as email follow-ups to his clients. He's posting on his website. But you would be very surprised at what you can get done for $5. I had a friend of mine that won our fantasy football league, and for $5, I had a human beatbox do a congratulatory message to him. It's really fun stuff. I encourage you to try it, but there is so much good low-cost talent out there that you can blend with low-cost technology to really set your business on fire. So these were some of the main things I wanted to impart to you this morning. As many of you know, I also try and be a student of attitude. And so I want to close sharing with you some of the things I do to keep myself charged up. I'm a guy that's had some modest success, but I've also had some flame-out failures. Things haven't always gone easy, and I've had to keep resilient, and I've had to keep positive through a lot of different things. And so I've tried to implement some tools and techniques to do that. I very much consider myself not a motivational speaker, but a motivational student. I'm always trying to learn, I'm always trying to grow, but there's been a couple things that I've adopted, a couple habits that I've adopted that have served me well. One thing is, and many of you have heard me say this before, is that I'm a student and I'm enrolled full-time in Automobile University. My wife will vouch for it. I'm always downloading different podcasts and listening to different CDs and different things to feed my mind. I have a goal that I want to get out of the car a little bit better and a little bit smarter every single time. So I've tried to immerse myself in all things personal development, and I find that just driving around town is a great place to do it. This is a CD that Jeffrey Gitomer gave me when I was a young man. It's called The Strangest Secret by Earl Nightingale. I'm sure many of you in this room have listened to it. It's standard for my gasket guys to be listening to this stuff in their car. But I hear Earl Nightingale in my sleep sometimes. He's saying to me, "You become what you think about." That's the secret. But I promise you, if you listen to this over and over and over again, you'll begin to feel it. It will begin to resonate with you. So I challenge you, turn off the Howard Stern, turn off the sports talk radio, give yourself a little break from all that goes on in the world, and immerse yourself in a positive message. It really does work. I also try and learn from what I observe in others. I think you can learn from everybody. It's something I pride myself on, is trying to take away or learn a positive message from the things I see and the people I meet. Recently I saw a TV commercial that talked about Dick Fosbury. Anybody know who Dick Fosbury is? Many of you do. I researched Dick Fosbury. Do you realize that before the 1968 Olympics in Mexico City, every single high jumper in the world went over the bar frontwards? This guy was like a circus act until he won the gold medal in 1968. And since then, everybody does it his way. The Fosbury flop is the only way now that anyone ever considered doing the high jump. And what I learned from him is you have to think different. You got to take a different look at things. You have to be different and value added in everything that you do. Anybody watching Vanilla Ice? Drew, I know you are. We like it in our house. It's a cool show. Listened to a lot of Vanilla Ice back in the day. Thought he was a pretty cool guy. That's right, buddy. Ice, Ice, baby. Now Vanilla Ice is fixing houses. If you ever watch this guy, he goes in, he takes these beat-up homes, he spruces them up, he puts his little Vanilla Ice touch on them. He's flipping homes in Florida. This guy's making a fortune. So I thought it was pretty cool. And as a guy that's had to remake myself several times in my business career, Vanilla Ice has taught me, don't be afraid to remake yourself. Sometimes it takes a redo. Football season will soon be upon us, and I got to tell you, the level of play in the NFL today from these quarterbacks to me is just amazing. I look at guys like Brady and Breeze and Manning and all these guys, and if you even are just a outside fan watching football, you can't help be amazed that these guys get under center and they look around and they're changing things on the fly. Guys are moving in front of them, and they are able to pick up and change things quickly. And it's really made me even more determined to be a lifelong student. Those quick reads and that level of skill doesn't happen by accident. These guys are watching a lot of film, and they're a student of what they do. And I'm very impressed by them. We're getting the Hornets back. I know there's a buzz around the city and a buzz around the room. So I don't know about you, it got me thinking about Muggsy. And I've been watching a lot of NBA playoffs, and with the Hornets coming back, I started thinking about Muggsy. And when I think about Muggsy, I think that this guy did not get the credit he deserved. 5'3" Muggsy Bogues. We've got the NBA draft coming up in a few weeks. You hear the scouts talking about This guy may be too short to play point guard. And I think, well, what do you mean too short? He's 6'1", 6'2". Muggsy was 5'3". And it wasn't like this guy was some circus act. He was a 10 or 12-year NBA starter. This guy was a serious, serious player at 5'3". I think he's one of the greatest sports stories of all time. I don't think he gets the credit he deserves. Hopefully with the Hornet name coming back, he will. But I'm a big Muggsy Bogues fan. I also look at this guy, and some of you may have heard of Life Without Limbs. This guy is the most prominent motivational speaker on this planet, and he was born without any arms and any legs. So I look at this gentleman, I look at guys like Muggsy Bogues, and it's just a reminder of the blessings I have. I've been dealt a great hand. If you're in this room today, you've been dealt a great hand. The real question is, how are you going to play it? Can you make a winner out of the hand that you've been dealt? I know the answer is that you can, but sometimes we miss seeing all the blessings in our life. And it's important that you don't do that. I would say the greatest thing in terms of, what will have the greatest effect on your attitude is really the choice you make about your attitude. What my kids hear me say all the time is we all make choices and our choices make us. The body of work that is your life is really based on a series of choices. And I think the choice you make about your attitude is very important. Debbie Millhouse spoke last year, and she talked about lowering the threshold for gratitude. Debbie challenged all of us to turn off our hot water heater for a week and see how appreciative we are the following week when you turn it back on. Well, in Judaism, there's this idea that after you use the bathroom, you're supposed to say a blessing. And basically that blessing is, dear God, thank you for allowing my plumbing to work. Thank you for allowing those things that are supposed to open when they're supposed to open and to close back up when they're supposed to close back up. I drink a lot of water. I've got many opportunities throughout the day to say my little pea prayer and to weave a little gem of gratitude in throughout my day. So that's my way of lowering my threshold for gratitude. So whether it's getting a call from an old friend or turning on the radio and hearing a song you love, or getting a hug from your kid, you have many things in your life to be grateful for. And I urge you to lower that threshold, lower that bar, and allow yourself to be grateful for the things that you have. Before I close, I want to give a quick little attitude litmus test. You ready? How grateful are you for your job? You could be this guy. That doesn't look like much fun, does it? You could be this gal. Anybody want to collect elephant poop for a living? I don't believe that I do. All right, we've got a volunteer. So how grateful are you for your job? There's other things you could be doing. How grateful are you for where you live? We live in the land of milk and honey, Charlotte, North Carolina. It's a great place to be. We don't live in Haiti. We don't live in the Middle East where there's turmoil. We don't live in Oklahoma City that got hit by tornadoes within the last month. We live in Charlotte. We're lucky to be here. How grateful are you for your health? Health is something that we shouldn't take for granted. How grateful are you for yours? This gentleman's making a go of it. He lost both his legs in battle. How grateful are you for your health? We all have lots of things to be grateful for in our world. I am very grateful for my family. I am very grateful for this group. And I'm very grateful that I had a chance to spend some time with you this morning to share this message. So thank you.